that's awesome. Fantastic. It's an honor to be the part of this forum. So we heard a lot of intellects from the industry. So now it's about the time for the corporate to talk about what industry thinks and what corporate think. Are we on the same page? Do we deliver the same way the industry trend is thinking about to deliver? Right. So we spoke about two speakers. Vishal talked about there's a huge opportunity and a huge potential about the cloud, right? Deepak also covered up that there's a lot of opportunity and forecasted opportunity for cloud is immense. So probably that's where I wanted to break the ice and move the needle to announce that Inspira, one of the center of excellence, right, is going to be the cloud. So we are initiating a prominent center of excellence onto the cloud, which is now going to address infrastructure as a service, which is going to talk about platform as a service, and predominantly the third, which is very, very important, is the software as a service. Right. Now, a typical question that comes to my mind that what people think about cloud. Is it something we are trying to change the buying model, or is it something that we are trying to do some kind of a value addition to it? Right, because most of the people that I talk about, what I think about cloud is going to do, is it, most of the people fundamentally think cloud is something, same offerings what we give on the print, but probably I will have a meter engaged with it, and probably I may change the model from Capex to Opex, right? But purposely when you look at it from a technology perspective, is it really that is something that we are looking forward to? Is it really that is the key that we wanted to move and shift to cloud? Is it something, or is it there something which is the economies of the scale that we are looking at? Is it something by architecture we are adapting to the cloud, right? So the first important and the first key point that I consider when I talk about the cloud is automation, right? So probably when I talk about the automation, that will transform the cloud enormously. Reason, when we have to deliver a value, right? That value can be only delivered when there is a higher level of an automation that we are trying to build, which creates a significant value proposition to the customers, to the most of the CIOs or CXOs. The second important point is, people are still not able to segregate the infrastructure as a service versus managed services, right? But these are the points that I highlighted while I spoke to most of the CIOs or CXOs as what is their wish list, what do they want to see in the cloud? The first thing they wanted to see, that cloud should not only come as a different transformed model of buying, but it should come as a lot of value addition by putting into the automation. The second, we should have a segregated initiatives or strategies to differentiate the infrastructure as a service versus the managed services. And the public and private clouds are converging. They are basically coming up with both of the forms where people can actually scale up and transform their businesses and shape up as per the education they want. And most of the people in the organization where they're making IT as the cost centers are trying to replicate that model where it can actually have a multi-tenancy and deliver as a service to their BUs, deliver their service to their functional departments. And obviously, CXOs always want more and less. They wanted to spend less and they wanted to get in more. Right. 15 minutes is not enough time to focus on the entire cloud because the cloud is huge. Infrastructure, platform, and software is huge. So today, what I thought about is that I'll talk about the security as a service. Right. One of the most fundamental I talk about security is because I see a great value of security when it is being introduced as a service. Now, Vishal, who has been my mentor at some point in time, has always taught me one thing. When you start, you first ask the question. So I have a bad habit saying. So I'll start with a question. Can you just tell me what is the percentage of Indians having faced some sort of cyber attacks? What do you think? We heard about the global phenomena, right? We know about billions, dollars going on to the cyber crime. What is the percentage you think would be in India with such kind of organizations which have suffered an attack at one point in time?
110.
Any guesses? 110. Fantastic. Aggressive bid.
Actually, it means that many people don't know and that they have been.
All right, get it. Anyone else?
70%.
70%. Who said 70%? No, it's there. Okay. Noted, sir. Anyone else? All right. Absolutely. Congratulations. So was it a guess or you read it somewhere? Oh, you read it somewhere. Fantastic. Great guess. So it's 72% of the industries, 72% of the organization have actually declared that they have suffered some level of an attack. Now, it's an American philosophy. If you answer one question rightly, the second question comes to you. So what percent of all vulnerability exploits occurring in India are due to the malicious attacks? Well, here your guess will not work. Figures has changed. Any guesses more? 96%. Yeah, probably 72 is here, so it should be more than that. So probably it is 32% that of the vulnerability exploits, which is actually happening because of the malware attack and the data breaches. What do you think? Which country would be the second largest country which would have actually suffered the major number of records stolen? US, right? Europe, fantastic. US. I said second largest, so probably that's proud Indians. So probably when we are looking at this kind of a thing, what is actually happening? What is the state of the affairs in the context to the cyber criminals? So most of the cyber criminals we actually have heard, they're actually transformed. You know, previously, if you see that someone needs to hack, he wanted to basically hack into the systems because to prove that I'm much more skilled and knowledgeable because I can penetrate, right? Then the second stage came where the people actually started penetrating into the networks because they wanted to show it was because of the financial gains, which still is continuing. The trend is continuing. It's an easy gains, financial motives behind a cyber breach. Now, the third motive which is coming out, which actually the recently I captured, was business rivalry. Okay. Now think about what does a business rivalry mean? Business rivalry means a vice president of Pepsi given an offer by Coke, and this guy has to do nothing, just upload all the data onto Dropbox and walks off empty-handed, I've not taken anything. And think what happens. Everything swaps up. So some of the Indian examples which reported a cyber breach on their offshore accounts, right? We know that Scorpion Leap, right? Which was, Scorpion Leap, I actually kept an example was because it was not the perfect examples to talk about the insider threat. Someone actually took up the naval designs, uploaded somewhere, he walked off, while after the naval servicing into the naval industry, and finally, he actually exposed those designs into the Australia. So probably all of these breaches which is happening are happening because of the financial and modules. But one of the things which is common in these breaches is sophistication, right? Now what does that mean? Always a cyber criminal, when he tries to penetrate, he always does the most sophisticated attacks which you never can imagine, because he brings in a lot of sophistication in his attacks and is very targeted attack. Now what does that mean? A cyber criminal uses a couple of vectors to penetrate into a network. For example, he sends an email, a tempting email. You click on that email and you are compromised. For example, you get an email, right, from one of your friends whom you had a crush in the school, and she says, after 20 years I found you are the actual love for me, right? What will you do? What will one do? A middle-aged person like me, what will you do? I'll be tempted, right? Click. The moment I click, compromised. Now, if you look at the anatomy of this attack, okay, the anatomy of this attack is that he actually did social media, or he went onto your LinkedIn and Facebook, he actually got the emotional crush out of you, because he analyzed that and probably took your email, her email, and made her as a prime vector and penetrated into you, and you saw that email coming from that lady and you just clicked and you're compromised. Look how targeted it is, right? So similarly, Had anyone imagined in our lives before that we heard that gundas, criminals from UP, Bihar, taking our children away and asking for ransoms, right? Have ever someone imagined that our data will be hyphenated and hijacked and we will have to pay ransom for that? Look at this ransomware. You could have never imagined that someone comes back to you and says that your data is compromised, it's encrypted, you can't do anything shit about this. And now you pay me the ransom, right? He said, what the hell going on? So this is the modernization and the attacks which we have now seen. We have noticed these kind of attacks, right? So now, perpetually, now the question is that, why are these attacks so successful? Are the conventional security technologies not enough which can protect us from those kind of attacks? So, some of the things which we talk about security, generally people talk about security is not about the technology, right? The IT security is about three important things. It's people, it's process, and it's technology, right? So when we talk about a process, as a process we really don't engage into where we can actually take up the backups, right? The second most important thing is the updates and the patches. 60% of the time, right, the infrastructure is not properly updated and henceforth becomes the victim for those kind of targeted attacks. So probably we would have not seen so much of breaches coming to us if probably we would have configured, right, it properly. Lack of security training to the people. People doesn't know what is important to expose and what's not important to expose, what to access, what not to access. Even we have seen a tremendous paradigm shift in terms of authentication, the access control. People are given access to many things which is not supposed to be, right? So probably that brings in another feature. And conflicting priorities, security versus productivity, right? For example, the business change demands something and security is compromised because it's a lead of the business. You can't scale up those products to that level. Generic problems that we see, 10% of the all security features we are actually able to use. We are not using even the 100% of them. And improperly configured firewall, right, which is an access control device, allows you for a breach. And we are not able to define the policies which can be a collaborative framework, a security framework towards endpoints and the networks. And we are keeping the general IT guys to be as head of the security because they are not able to understand that what are the dynamics that are underplayed into the security paradigm, right? So because it's a bigger under economy which is growing. Here is that where we are coming up with a thought of bringing security as a service. That's a reason, one of the most fundamental bases that where we think that we need to come up with a security revolutionize, where we need to generate or we need to basically bring out an architecture where the security can be seen as a system but not as a product. Okay. What does this mean? What does this mean, security as a system? Can anyone able to get what I'm trying to say? Simple logic. Now we are looking at the network and we are looking at endpoints. Endpoints are the guards which are inside your building. And network is a guard which is outside your building, right? The endpoint guy, right, doesn't have a communication with the network guy, and network guy doesn't have a communication with the endpoint guy, right? So probably what's happening, when the network guy sees a person like me who is well suited, he thinks that he could be a legitimate traffic, he's allowing it, right? And endpoint thinks that it's coming from the network area which has actually been allowed, and probably I may also allow it. So there is no threat sharing between them. So probably when we are talking about the security, we are bringing in a thought process where we are integrating the processes, right? We are integrating the technology where they can do the lot of correlation and do the threat sharing. So security, we are trying to talk about a collaborative, a unified architecture which can address the threat landscape across endpoint as well as network. Now there are two kind of dilemmas I am into. Probably one level of the CXOs which come to me, they say that, okay, fine, we adapt to your product technology, We adapt to the framework that you are giving, which is okay, you are integrating, and Inspira Secure is protecting me from those. But probably there is a lot of cost and a lot of investment that is gone on the products and the collaboration that I have done already, which is in premises already. So how do I get connected to that? So that's what I have phased them out into the detection solutions. So in detection solution, it's probably third-party solutions, which I'm trying to, with my correlation engine, I'm trying to bring them into the unified architecture and do monitoring and reporting. This is exactly what I'm trying to say. When I'm talking about the detect, I'm actually doing the managed security information and event monitoring for third-party solutions. And plus, I'm doing the vulnerability management services, like for example, regular security scanning, on-demand scanning, checking for compliance, as well as configuration for security with reporting and monitoring. And when I'm coming out onto the scalable protection services, like we'll be talking about providing end-to-end security services, whether it's network protection, endpoint protection, server protection, web protection, email protection, all end-to-end infrastructure, as well as the information protection out of the single platform. This cloud is built on the Gartner Leader Solution platforms. We are assuring the SLA. We are building to handle all the spikes in the traffic under all conditions. And as well as we have certified resources in our Security Operations Center, which is able to monitor and do the threat analysis and run an analytics on the top of it to basically help you out and report and monitor it critically. So this is something when we talk about the security information and event management is about looking at your network through a larger lens. So what we are trying to do is that we are correlating the nature of the attack. We are correlating the events and probably predicating that whether the threat is there or not, or how the threat is very, very abnormally related to your environments. In which we are offering log management, we are offering security event and incident management, compliance, as well as the cyber threat monitoring. Because the cyber threat monitoring is something where we are collecting and translating all the suspicious or confirmed threat information into the actionable intelligence. Which means when I'm connecting the network and the endpoint, and if I see there is a threat which is at the endpoint, the network is actually being asked that this is compromised, so isolate the services. So probably automatically that gets isolated. And when I'm talking about the product offerings, in the product offerings, it's not only the endpoint, but I'm talking about the non-conventional endpoints, because we are trying to move. We are not keeping those technologies which has been conventionally not working technologies, right? We are building those technologies which are the next generation security technologies. Now, for example, have anyone of you seen from the endpoint, I can actually do the malicious traffic detection. I can see the traffic, for example, in ransomware. How did this attack happen? In ransomware, the cyber criminal sends you an email, right? And the moment you get that email, you click on that email, there's an attachment. The moment you click on that attachment, there is a malware which actually resides. This malware speaks to the command and control center. And now, it's very important to analyze, it's not that everywhere that malware has actually encrypted the data. Then the command and control center looks at the data and the value of the information. Based on that, it passes on a cryptographic keys to them. So once the keys exchange are happened, your data is encrypted. After that, he starts demanding for the ransom. Now, you tell me from a conventional technology endpoint, he has got no clue about it. He really doesn't know what's happening at the back end. A malware is sitting, he's not able to look at that malware, he's not able to detect that malware, and that malware is actually doing an information exchange with the external command and control center, right? So here, the need of the time is today, the next generation security product. The next generation security product is where it can actually see the traffic which is going out and in, and probably evaluate and tells to the network, hey, this is a communication which is going to the command and control center, stop. That's how it stops, right? So these are the products that we are actually bringing to our cloud. And plus, the biggest value that we are driving on the top of it is that we are unifying them, we are automating them, and we are giving one view, a unified, a collaborative view, so that along with the actionable, so that we are not a reactive one. This cloud is not going to bring in a reactive protection, but it's moving towards a proactive approach. That's what we are bringing it up. In the last, I would like to say, this is the first time when I said that the cloud, the biggest value add or the game changing or the transformation in the cloud is not bringing the products on the cloud and then giving them as a service. No. But the bigger transformation is that how do you automate? How do you set up the processes which can help and can build value? Right. This is the value what we are trying to build. We are integrating multiple technologies together and allowing them to communicate with each other, allowing them to collaborate with each other. So we have chosen multiple vendors, right, which have the next generation products. And we are allowing them to integrate with our correlation engine. And from that correlation engine, we are giving a proactive protection to our customers. So, any questions? This is something I wanted to talk about the roadmap, the architecture-wise. While we are talking about the cloud, we are going to bring the threat analysis, threat response, as well as the product development, because those are the three things which will be engineered and put together to the customer portal and the partner portal, right? And from there, the security monitoring and management services will be out of one form. Thank you.